What's going on, guys? It's J-Ho back with more Destiny 2, and in this video we're going to go over how to get the almighty title slash seal. So this is the exclusive seal for Season of the Worthy, and it's a lot easier than the last couple seasonal related seals. But let's jump straight into it. So there are 7 triumphs that you need to complete this seal. Starting off with the first one, we got full stack Warmind security, and this one requires you to fully upgrade all Seraph bunkers. So for this one, you'll need to purchase every upgrade on the upgrade path for all 3 Seraph bunkers on the EDZ, Moon, and Io. And to upgrade all the bunkers, you will need Warmind bits, legendary shards, and the planetary material specific to that planet's bunker. So the best upgrades to purchase first are the cost reduction upgrades, because it will make all the other upgrades a lot cheaper. And then the next best column to purchase is the Warmind bit generation upgrades, which will help you get more Warmind bits from various different sources. After purchasing upgrades, you will receive chipsets for the bunkers, which you can turn in to receive powerful gear as well as extra perks for that bunker. And then after turning in all your chipsets, you will reach rank 7 on the bunker, and that's when you will receive a pinnacle drop as well. So I recommend purchasing all the upgrades, or majority of them, for all the bunkers before doing some of the other triumphs in this seal, because it will make everything a lot easier, especially if you purchase the Rasputin heavy frames, because that will help out for the bunkers, for the lost sectors, and for the tower public events. So getting that and getting some of those upgrades will definitely help out in completing some of the other triumphs. Moving on to the next triumph, we got algorithm efficiency, which says to clear all 3 Seraph bunkers in a day. So this one is pretty simple. Just clear the daily bunker on the EDZ, the Moon, and Io in the same day. There's usually a couple champions along the way, so you may need some champion mods to help clear them out. And swords are really good against the overload champions. The Ariana's Vow is really good for anti-barrier champions, and I like using Devil's Ruin for the unstoppable champions, but you can also use some of the champion mods on the seasonal artifact as well. Moving on to the next triumph, we got Hardcoded Victory, which states complete a Seraph Tower public event without failing a single support tower charge cycle. Basically, you need to successfully defend every support tower cycle by making sure there are no enemies on the active plate when it shoots out those balls or those orbs. And so if you successfully keep the enemies out of the plate for the tower, it will shoot out 6 balls instead of 2. And to get this triumph, you just need to successfully defend all the active plates during the entire run of the public event. So it's not as hard as it sounds, but you probably will need a group of teammates to help you do this. And the unfortunate part about this is, even though you can have up to 9 people maximum for an instance of patrol, you can only have up to 3 people per fire team. So you probably will need a little bit more than 3 people to do this one. I was lucky enough to find random people when I loaded into the zone, and I think I completed it with about 5 people. So even if you use LFG, you still need to find some people just by loading into the zone, so that you can get people on the same instance. And you can also try messaging some people that you just randomly find in the zone when you load in, and see if they'll open up their fire team and help out, or let other people come in as well. So in terms of tips to complete this triumph, the best place to do it on is the Moon, because the plates are a lot closer to each other in proximity, so you can help out your teammates a lot easier and rotate to the active plates a lot quicker as well. And not only on the Moon, but specifically when Hive is the enemy on the Moon, because I do believe it rotates between Fallen and Hive. And I did attempt it on the EDZ a couple times with a big group, and it was a lot more difficult because it was Fallen. Some of the Fallen enemies can sometimes teleport and move really quickly, so it made it a lot harder to keep the plates clear, especially when they go invis. It was sometimes difficult to notice if there was an enemy on the plate or not. So I recommend doing it when Hive is the enemy on the Moon, and that's your best opportunity. A lot of the reasons why is because the Hive have easy, predictable movements as well. In terms of subclasses, I recommend anything that's good for ad clearing or for doing a lot of damage or DPS on the majors or the tankier boss enemies. So for Warlock, like I was using Nova Bomb. You can also use Chaos Reach if you want, with those exotic boots to extend it. For your hunters, you can use either Tether for ad control, or you can use like Arc Staff to deal with ads as well. For Titan, it seemed like Thunder Crash was really good for the bigger enemies, or you can use other stuff like hammers to take care of ads as well. And then in terms of weapons, try to use things that have high DPS. So I was using like a shotgun for those close range enemies so I can wipe them out quickly. I was using the Icolo shotgun. You can also use swords or grenade launchers for your power weapon, just to deal with the majors and the tankier enemies a lot quicker. And then the last thing is that it can get a little bit more hectic in the later parts of the event because multiple towers can be active at the same time. So make sure early on, when it's only one tower, when you're successfully defending the plates, there's going to be 6 orbs coming out or 6 balls coming out every time. Make sure you keep some of those available because you will have some excess on the ground as long as you're successfully defending each of the plates. And then that way in the later rounds, when it gets more hectic and more plates are involved, you can have some extra orbs on the ground to throw, and you can focus more on the enemies and stuff. Unfortunately, I lost some of the footage on my successful run of this triumph, but hopefully a lot of these tips can help you out in completing this one. Moving on to the next triumphs, we got Resolve Bugs, EDZ Legendary Lost Sector, Resolve Bugs for the IO Lost Sectors, and then for the Moon Lost Sectors as well. So all of these just requires you to complete all the Legendary Lost Sectors at least one time each, and they do rotate on a daily basis. So I will leave a link in the description below on a site that I found that tells you the daily rotations of what lost sector is active on which day. So just make sure you do one of each of them and you will get a credit for this triumph. For the most part, all of these are pretty simple and there is no respawn restriction. So if you die and you mess up, you can still just keep respawning until you finally beat the boss at the end and complete it. A lot of these lost sectors too, you can also skip some of the parts by just running past enemies and stuff. And especially if you're a hunter and you can go invisible, you can easily skip a lot of the parts, go invis, run past a bunch of the enemies, and then get to the end or the final room, melt the boss, and then open the chest, and it will despawn all the enemies, and that will be a completion for that lost sector. So you can do that way if you want. If you don't want to go through all of the parts of the lost sector, you can skip to the end and you can just defeat the boss and then open the chest. Some of them you will need to do legit because there are barriers blocking the next part of the lost sector. So you will need to defeat all the enemies in a room before the next room opens up. I believe all of them on the moon require that, so you will need to defeat some of the enemies before the barrier goes away so you can go into the next room. So for the moon lost sectors, you will need to do it regularly. For the EDZ lost sectors, I believe the Quarry one and the Skydock one, you can run past the enemies to the end. But the other one, Scavenger's Den, you will need to do regularly because I think there's barriers on that one. For the IO lost sectors, I think you can run through or run past some of the enemies for all of them. And especially the Sanctum of Bones one, you can actually jump up and skip a bunch of the lost sector and then head straight to the boss and just melt them. So some of these you can get to the end pretty quickly. And so that leads into the last triumph called Object Oriented. This one says complete a legendary lost sector without dying. So this one's really simple depending on which lost sector you choose. I think the easiest ones to try it on is the Skydock one. I actually have a guide on how to farm it and do it really quickly. And you definitely can do that one without dying by just running past all the enemies, going invis. So I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. Basically, I did it as a farm video for farming Warmine bits. But that one's also really good for completing a lost sector without dying as well, because you can do runs in less than a minute. So if you're really quick, you can do it in less than a minute. And you can definitely complete it without dying, so that's a good one. The Sanctum of Bones one, I believe, is also really good because you can skip to the end and defeat the boss and then open the chest. So that one's really good for doing it without dying as well. But for the most part, those are probably the best two choices for going for this last triumph. Anyway, that's about it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. As always, stay tuned for more videos, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace!